Welcome to Technically Speaking, conversations for design managers delivering real stories and ready to use tactics to help you build confidence and credibility. I sit down with top voices in design, tech, and business to open the black box of leadership. I'm your host, Harrison Wheeler. With 20 years in design and a decade leading teams from scrappy startups to global giants, it's time to get technical. Hey everybody, welcome to Technically Speaking, the AI Product Builder series. In this limited special, we'll unpack the real stories behind the tools shaping our future. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep with Pablo Stanley, founder of Lummi AI. We're going to talk about the challenges, triumphs, and unexpected turns in building in the AI space. How you doing?
Good, man. Good. Thanks for having me, man. Great to see you again. I think the last time was on the other side of the world.
Really
Was
excited.
in Antwerp. Right?
Network, man. Yeah. We were eating. I just remember eating like really heavy dinners,
Yeah. Waffles and just beer
waffles,
and
beer, French fries, and I just remember like my body temperature getting extremely warm. I was like, wow, this might be the heaviest food I've
yeah.
eaten in a while.
But it's weird because you see people. This is like, okay, is this what everyone eats? But you see them on the streets and
Yeah,
everybody looks
great.
well. So
Yeah,
they might be doing something
yeah.
there that we're missing
I mean,
because, yeah, they're eating like what we will call like we'll feel guilty for
right.
eating. Comfort food is like, hey, I'll eat this just this time just to feel good. My body, my mind needs it. But they're like, no, every day. It's just like it's all good
Everything.
and it
Yeah,
doesn't affect us. So there must be something there.
yeah. Pablo, like I feel like you've been on sort of like a world tour a bit, right? Because I think like I saw you in Antwerp. You're hopping around to some other place. I know you're in Australia a few weeks ago. Where are you at right now? And what's next?
I'm in Mexico City.
Yeah.
And yeah, last year I was doing a lot of stuff, and I was just recently in Sydney.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Next is going to be LA. Actually,
Nice.
next week I'm going to be at Canva Crate, which is like a Canvas conference.
Nice.
And yeah, that's going to be in LA, and it's going to be fun. I went there last year, and I think it was one of their presentations got a little bit viral because it it they did a lot of like a big show and everything. And I was there, dude. I was there in front watching that as it happened.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like I get why it was a little bit cringy and people were like, what's going on? But on compared it to other cringy corporate events, this
Yeah.
was really well produced and it
Yeah.
was really nice. And it was just like, no, actually they did it really well.
Yeah.
It's just that sometimes we cannot help but being cynical, whenever we see stuff like this. But
Right.
I was there and I was like, oh man, this is actually pretty good. But I knew there's going to be a video about this and
Yeah.
people are going to just like, yeah, it's going to be viral. People are not
I
going.
feel like you have, I'm assuming, some vested or maybe it's not vested stake in Canva, given you're announced as being on their board of advisors last year. What is that, or design advisor, right? Like what does that all entail? Like, are you all like sitting around a table in, cloaks talking about what you like, or thumbs up, thumbs down, or garb?
Yeah, it sounds fancy and mysterious, right? But I promise it's not like any design Illuminati stuff or anything.
Yeah.
We don't meet in a dark dungeon with robes.
Sure.
Well, actually, no, I'm kidding. No, it just like basically means that they've been wanting to understand more the world of professional designers.
Mm,
Like they have gotten as like designers at all levels,
sure.
but like for them, they see like, hey, there's an opportunity with designers at highest levels, let's say, which
Sure.
is like a very small. percent of designers, I would say, where it's
Yeah.
like the ones who are, I don't know, the ones who use the professional tools and see
Right.
Canva as like, oh, I don't use that. I'm a professional. So I think they
Oh, you
want
a
to,
Canva designer?
yeah, you're a Canva designer. There's a meme about that where it's like, oh, you're not a real designer.
Mm,
I think they are aware of that.
yeah.
They can see the internet, and they want to understand a little bit better why is that, and
Mm,
also just like, hey, how can we make a better tool that professional designers would embrace, and
mm,
they I don't know. Even if I weren't on the board, I will be talking about this because I find it really interesting.
sure.
They acquired uh, this Affinity, which
Yeah.
has different tools.
Yeah.
So they're trying to bring it into the Canva ecosystem and all that stuff, and
Mm,
see like, hey, how can those tools accommodate to professional designers? And I don't know. It's just been really cool, interesting, and see how they really care about this and they really want to make something that is useful and that just like that you and I would use,
yeah.
and your audience would potentially use too. So they're really interested in that, which is like sounds weird. It's like, but dude, you already have everyone. Everyone uses
Right.
Canva. Everyone who is not a designer now is a designer.
Yeah.
So like, why do you even want us? And it's
Yeah.
like, no, well, we want to understand better. Like maybe it's this mentality. We want it all, Pablo. Stop saying anything. No, but I think it comes from a good place.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. It feels like Canva for designers is actually a guilty pleasure. A lot of designers are not willing to admit, right? First off, my podcast album I created in Canva, which,
I love it. I love
easy,
that you're
you know?
because I feel like a lot of you're right. A lot of
Yeah.
designers don't want to come out of the closet of the Canva users, Whereas like sometimes I like a different like I don't know, just like in different settings, workshops and
Yeah.
stuff. I will ask like, hey, who here uses Canva?
Yeah.
And first, they're afraid of saying, and
Yeah.
then suddenly, like, one is just, like,
Small
brave
hand.
enough to raise their hand, and then others, "Okay, me too." And it's like, "Hey, that's okay."
It's like an alcoholic anonymous class, but for Canva.
Yeah, a little bit like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Well. Hey, look, I want to give folks a little bit high level, just overview of Pablo. So, um, I guess you could kind of call you a serial entrepreneur at this point. Not, I feel like it's a terrible name because I almost like feel synonymous with serial killer. Um, but I know that's not the case.
uh, there's both have a similar level of psychopathy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you all like have a chance to follow any of Pablo's work, one of the
Mm.
most hilarious illustrations he has is the butts that are like bongo drums. We and so, but speaking of that, I think I can still remember like one of your first kind of ventures, and that was around blush. And this almost
Yeah,
kind of goes back to like when I was primarily using like Sketch. I think you had like a generator there. Um and so like the idea behind Blush is basically, you can create like any sort of illustration and customize it for any sort of scenario. And I feel like at one point the internet went through like a trend where they were just basically using some of the same stylized illustrations that were in your app.
yeah, I think, if suddenly the internet started looking the same,
Yeah.
and you were wondering who was at fault, yeah, you can blame us a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. I think and even before Blush, I was doing, like, I don't know, I was doing I'm really interested in the idea of open source,
Mm,
and usually open source is, well, it's linked to software
right.
and to code, and I was like, "Hey, can there be open design? Can there be a version of open source but in design, and I had been doing a lot of illustration systems that I would put them out there,
Yeah.
and not just the raster PNGs,
Right.
like, but actually all the parts, the actual files and on vectors, so others could use them and make their own and change the colors
Yeah.
and edit them and remix and make them yours.
Mm.
So I don't know. I've always been interested in that, and there's a big community of creators, makers who put their work out there,
Yeah.
and they also see it as an opportunity also for just like get themselves known. Like when you're competing against everyone who's out there in social media, just like everyone sharing different things. Like
Yeah.
it's a good way to just get yourself out there. So yeah, it started with those open source illustrations, and then suddenly we decided. Like I asked a couple of engineers who I knew, and
Mm.
those engineers, programmers who that they have the eye,
Yeah.
that
Oh
they
yeah.
care about the little details,
Oh yeah. We
and
love those kinds of engineers.
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, nothing wrong about other types of engineers, but as a designer, you get to match really well with those
Yeah.
kinds of engineers,
Yep.
and you get to build things together. So I was like, hey,
Mm.
and was during the pandemic, like in the middle of it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, dude, like, I have this idea. I've been doing these illustrations, these open source illustrations. What if we build a tool around it,
Yeah.
and we build more illustrations, and then we make it easy for anyone
Yeah.
because e- even though like the stuff that I was putting out there that was open source,
Mm.
you still had to know how to
Right.
use the tools, to open them
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, we're leaving out a lot of people who don't know, like a teacher or I don't know, like a small business owner. They just wants a cool doodle, and there's the thing, but also they want to customize it and make them theirs.
Yeah.
So we built that tool around that idea, where it's like, hey, these open source illustrations and all that stuff,
Mm.
but making a tool around it so it's easy for anyone to use.
I love that. Yeah, and it's almost kind of like a business or idea out of a need, right? An opportunity you saw yourself, which I think is always like that's how you end up building some of the best things because you can kind of put like your thought into it. Um, so fast forward to now, right? You have you're working on a project called Lummi AI. And it's the way I would kind of describe it, and you can obviously describe it better than I can, but really sort of AI generated stock photos, but they're almost like supercharged. I was actually using it the other day, right? I'm in love with the fact that like I can get rid of the background, right?
Yeah.
Like I have gone through so many image searches where I'm like, man, this would be a really great like picture if it didn't have the background, or it looks like it's transparent. Yeah, it's a
It is
JPEG.
not. Oh man, I
Well,
hate that. Yeah.
I always think of like the work that you've done with Blush as a kind of like continuation of this, but to the next level. So really curious of just how you've approached this. Like, how's your approach to building this sort of experience change now with AI? And are you actually like using AI to build this type of thing?
Yeah, yeah. The too long didn't read is it started as a side project.
Mm.
Well, more as an internal tool,
Okay.
that was actually satisfying the need we had.
Mm.
And a year and a half ago, we started playing around with LLMs,
Yeah.
with AI, and just like seeing what uh what we're able to do with it to make creative tools.
Yeah.
And I think we did the most obvious thing, which is like a website generator,
Yeah.
like a landing page
Yeah.
generator.
Yeah.
And it was also like in our minds is like this is the most obvious thing, but also since it's obvious,
Mm.
that means that it's going to be a little bit easier, and we're going to learn. Even if we're building something that is obvious, we're going to learn from it, and we're going to see what this thing is capable of. So we built our own, just like a website generator, but it was really, at least in the beginning, our MVP was just the one pager,
Yeah.
a landing page.
Yeah.
Uh, and it was all generated with AI, just like just put a prompt, create a landing page. Now there's a ton of those
Right.
already
Right.
out there. So, but which again, very obvious idea. But when doing this, like a one pager, like a website, any page, you have different sections, right? And
Yep.
well, each section has images, possible images. If it's a hero section, like the about section, like different things,
Yeah.
you will need an image and the features and stuff. And in the beginning, we decided let's just give AI everything. Let's
Mm.
let's first see like everything that we were very optimistic of how good it was going to be, at least a year and a half.
Sure.
It's like, hey, let's just give the LLM the whole responsibility of everything.
Yeah.
And one of those things was creating the images for each
Interesting.
section, and some of those sections will uh, require more than one image.
Yeah.
So that turned out to be problematic
Interesting.
because, well, to generate images on the spot, well, at least a year and a half ago, the tech was not as good.
Right. Right.
We seem to forget that this thing has been evolving really fast. But a
Yeah.
year and a half ago, it was still cringy, very
Yeah.
cringy.
Yeah.
Uh, and the tech was there for most of the stuff, but the images were still like generating them was
Mm.
slow, costly.
Right.
So it was costing a lot of money and it was taking a long time. And then but even that, you would you will forgive if the results were good,
Mhm.
right? You will
Right.
be like, you will be willing to wait and you will be willing to pay if the results were awesome. But that was the problem. The
Right.
freaking results were so bad, dude. So we're like, no, dude, like you're there waiting,
Yeah.
knowing that you just paid money to just even generate something that
With
might
like
be just
nine fingers in one hand.
exactly. And then
Yeah.
suddenly the results after waiting a minute and a half, which is not a lot, but
Right.
still, it feels like eternity on internet time.
Right. Right.
Uh, and then see the results, and the results are all crappy.
Yeah.
It was like, no. So we said, dude, we gotta make our own tool
Mm.
because, well, more than a tool, more I think I was like, dude, we have to make our own
Yeah.
image library, you know,
Mm.
like that powers our websites, like the AI instead of creating an image on the spot,
Yeah.
what if it went and searched through our image bank or
Right.
image library, we tag them, we all add all the metadata so they're easily indexed and searchable, and then it will fill up those websites. And suddenly those web pages start looking good
Right.
and we're faster and we're costing us less money.
Interesting.
Why? Well, why? Because we were curating these images. We're
Right. Right.
creating them,
Interesting.
but we're also curating them. We're like we want every website that our generator creates,
Yeah.
any image on that website, we want it to be amazing.
Right.
So there was a lot of human curation, and from all the abundant crap that this thing can create,
Yeah.
we were just like picking the things that we thought, hey, this is cool. Let's include in our image library.
Yeah.
But dude, that was a big task too, because
Sure.
like suddenly creating your own image bank for anything,
Right.
like, oh, let's just create our own stock library.
Right.
And, but dude, like so many subjects, so many things, so many vibes, so many colors, so many things that people could
Right.
be searching. And we were really proud when we suddenly had 5,000 images.
Right.
It's nothing, nothing,
Right.
you know? Like
Yeah.
5,000 images will always like keep giving you the same results how somehow.
Yeah.
So we just like started expanding and expanding and expanding on more images. And when I say we is like we internal, we the team, we were all the curators.
Interesting.
And I feel lucky that our team has like have really good taste and has the tech skills and everything,
Right.
and know what to look for,
Mm.
and also taste, which is really important, I think,
I
right
love that.
now, like having that skill. And So we just keep creating more images and more stuff and indexing, and we started like getting better at it. So
Yeah.
like it would be faster. And we started like, dude, what if we just open this up for others
Hmm.
so they can use it? We're using it internally just for our own tools, but oops, there's a mosquito. uh, what if we just build a tool around it and see if others use it? So that was also what I'm saying. It was kind of a side project. It's like, let's
Sure.
just put it out there and see what
Oh,
happens.
and was
It was
this side project out of Blush or was it something else?
it's all part of the same, just like,
Mm,
hey, let's just put it out there and
okay.
let's put a link back to our tool. So it's almost like an SEO
Yeah,
kind of
I see.
thing that just like builds our stuff, and
Mhm.
we just get more people arriving there to the images and then going to the actual tool we want them to use.
Right,
But it ended up that people were staying there and using that a lot,
right,
Lumi.
right.
And we're like, oh, and we internally, it's so weird, man, but we're really enjoying
Yeah,
working on that. So
yeah.
it's something
Oh,
that I suppose you as a manager, man, like you like managing a lot of people, you have to be aware, like what your team,
yeah.
what is
Keep 'em
happening
keep 'em
and what
fired up, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and if suddenly something comes and 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 people organically are gravitating
Mm,
towards something, you as a manager recognize that and say like, "Hey, okay, how can we make this work?" Because
right,
people are enjoying this. I mean, your team, your employees of the company
right.
are enjoying this and they're motivated to work on this. So let's try to make this part of our
Yeah,
day-to-day job. And that happened. And also the other side, more and more users were using that. So we're like, okay, there's kind of a product market fit here.
yeah,
So and it makes sense, is duh, of course, because whenever you have something that you need internally, a
yeah,
need, a problem that you're solving, it's usually a problem that others have too.
yeah.
And it's also very duh because like, yeah, like people just want an image.
Right.
They want a cool image
Yeah,
to use in their content, on their creations, on their presentations, on their website,
right,
whatever. They want a cool image.
right.
And because like I was saying on the websites that the AI was generating, they looked at first they looked, but
Yeah.
once the images got good,
Mm,
even with the same layouts and the same font choices and stuff, but now suddenly they look good. Oh, it's because the image just obviously, duh,
yeah,
again, if
yeah,
it's good, then everything else looks better.
yeah,
So yeah, like I think it's one of those cases of kind of a happy accident, kind of but also once that's something that happens organically,
yeah,
you have to also recognize, hey, that is happening. Let's pivot,
yeah.
which is hard sometimes, because
Yeah,
you're
I'm curious,
working.
when did you get to the point of conviction on pivoting? This is all easy to say in hindsight, right? But, like, what was
Ah,
that
dude,
moment for you?
I had to m- make I had to make a tough decision of laying off some people.
Mm,
They we were in a tough spot, and I had to say like, hey, dude, like we have to reduce or cost, and one of them had to be like or staff,
yeah,
and so and when you have a smaller team, you also have less things that you can do, of course.
yeah,
So I had to make the decision. We had to do that as a company, but with that came like also we're forced to be like, okay, we have to focus. We cannot be doing all this crap. I mean,
right.
we have to focus, and we said like, hey, it's one of those things. It's almost like kill your darlings. And even if you
Mm,
had projects that you really loved and stuff, it's like, hey, we cannot keep investing time and efforts into this, and you have to choose something that at the end of the day, big part of the decision was like, hey, we're all enjoying doing this,
yeah,
and we were going through something difficult as a team. The morale was low too, it's like, oh, what's going on? But like knowing, oh, but I get to keep working on this thing that I really enjoy doing,
yeah,
then it also is kind of a motivator too. So
mm,
it's also recognizing that. And this is a part where I'm going to get canceled because it's weird, man. But after all of that, suddenly we started becoming even more efficient, which
Mm,
sounds like the opposite of what you would expect. A smaller team, then less output. But I think it was the combination of really loving what we were doing,
yeah.
having that motivator that on the other side was connecting with people, and also suddenly a smaller team and having a really clear focus. Suddenly we were able to move faster and just
Mm,
uh, like do things more effectively.
yeah.
So there's a part where I'm like, a like I'm sounding. I know that I'm sounding insensitive. Oh, it sounds like, oh, I'm not saying that the solution to be more effective is laying off people. I'm not saying that. It was like a combination of different things.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that's what happened,
Yeah.
and
So question. So when it came to the product market fit, did that come before or after that?
we were seeing it already.
I see.
We're already seeing it, and we're
Yeah.
seeing the writing in the wall. And again, we're
Mm,
still doing that other product.
sure.
So and we had invested, dude. We invested so much. We invested on our own.
Mm,
We visited our own uh, trade models. Dude, we tried a lot of stuff. We
yeah.
brought even other people where like, hey, maybe it's just us because, dude, getting at least back then, I think things are getting better,
Yeah.
but getting LLMs to be powering your product, you have to be.
Yeah.
We're learning as we went,
Sure.
and a lot of things were changing,
Yeah.
and we had expectations, and we realized like, oh, the LLMs are not good at this thing, but we will learn
Yeah.
after a lot of tries and after a lot of things that we're. I mean, not to I empathize a
Yeah.
lot with, like, Apple not being able to launch a lot of their AI stuff
Yeah.
because I'm like, "Oh, I'm sure what is happening in there." I mean, I don't presume to know,
Yeah.
but I can understand a little bit because, like, trying to work with the little robots, as I like to call them,
Yeah.
and get them to do something always very being uh, when you're building a product, you want and when you're building something that is like you want to be able to predict the output.
Sure.
And with these things being so indeterministic,
Right.
like it was really difficult, man, to get them to work
Right.
exactly how we wanted. And it will usually kind of work, sometimes, but you cannot allow like the margin of error was like pretty big. So like suddenly like wait, we cannot ship this, or we would ship it, but it wasn't feeling good.
Sure.
And it was just, like, frustrating for
Right.
us, like,
Right.
trying to make the robots work, and it was just like, we're burning out, man, also.
That's a really like fascinating like piece there because we talked about taste a little bit earlier. There's the curation around like what it
Yeah.
can generate from a product perspective, right? Like obviously I think like if people are using something like Chat GPT, they're okay with,
Oh, yeah.
imperfections. But like when you actually have like a product out there that people are paying for that is AI generated, like how do your standards change? Do you have like a operating principle? Like I'm curious of like what does customer quality look like in such a generative world where results can, run the gamut?
Yeah, that's, you have to you have to see where AI is, where the LLMs are excel at.
Mm,
They excel yeah, if you're a ChatGPT user who you're one of these chatbot, they're great at that stuff, dude.
right,
They're great at just like writing more things and just like outputting more uh, text and writing in this form and in this other form.
right,
Uh, but even when you ask the same question to this, we all know it will always give a different answer, kind of similar, but it will always be
right,
different, right? So, and it's still okay for that kind of stuff because, like, hey, it feels creative and you feel like you're talking to someone. So they all act in this very in a probabilistic way, right? Where
right.
it's like it's trying to find the best answer to your question, the most probable answer to your question. Uh, but it's always going to be giving you, since it's generative, it's going to give you different answers. So that's all great when you're just talking to it, you know?
Yeah.
Because that's also how humans, when you're talking to a human, like even if you ask them the same question, unless they memorized it somehow, they're always going to give you kind of the same answer. But even over time, their answers will change, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And then there's never going to be the same. So that kind of feeling with a chatbot, it feels natural.
Yeah.
But when you're building a product that is powered by these things, you're like, okay, but I always want predictable results. I don't want you changing stuff in the background.
Right.
I don't want you adding different parameters that don't exist and that don't mean anything for the program. I don't want you suddenly changing the name of a parameter or something, because then the program is not going to know what you mean and it's going to
Right.
break the code.
Right.
So you have to. So we obviously thought, oh, this thing is very smart from using it as ChatGPT.
Mm.
Is obviously going to understand these things because this is easy. Just like follow a set of rules, and then it's going to follow a set of rules, and then wherever it needs to be generative, it will be. But no, it will be generative in the rules too.
Mm. Okay.
So that's where it's like
Yeah.
full chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like you have to understand that, and then with that, then you start building tools as a product manager, as your question,
Right.
where the LLM is good at. Where
Mm.
you set the guardrails and you start understanding, okay, LLMs cannot just do everything, but they're really good at writing text or transforming text, or with little context give you a better answer. Searching the web and then summarizing stuff. Those things, if there's a place on your product where you can insert those kinds of things, and this is meaning like an existing product where
Sure.
like a where can we add AI? Where can we sprinkle some AI? And as a product manager, we all want to do that, right? As soon as, oh, there's this
Sparkle
trend, we
going
need
through
to
it.
add some AI.
Yeah.
So you have to recognize where it's good at and then do that kind of stuff.
Interesting.
Now, uh, I think most of the problems that we're assuming that this thing was really good at other things that was just not good. At least back then, it is getting really good at code now.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that if we try to do what we were trying to do back then, it would be a little bit better.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit about like a knowing its strengths, knowing its cost, and
Yeah.
then making decisions from that. And it's like we in the beginning were like, oh, let's everything with AI. And it's like suddenly we realize like, oh no, only some things with AI, and the rest needs to be human
Yeah.
made.
Yeah.
Even the designs, man, on the website, we realized like very soon is like, oh, the design is not that great. The
Mm.
design decisions that the robots are making are not amazing. So we should give them some templates.
Yeah.
And suddenly the robot, what was doing was more like filling up the content, making decisions on like on different things, but not the actual design itself, but more
Within the
like the
contained.
structure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's getting better at that stuff
Yeah.
too, though. So
Yeah.
I'm not presuming that
Matter
it's
of
like,
time.
hey, yeah, it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I suppose like as a product manager, you have to recognize where it's good at and then
Sure.
build with those things, but knowing, hey, it's gonna get better.
Yeah.
So knowing that in the future, maybe you'll be able to do a feature that maybe it's not possible right now, or
Right.
maybe the output is not as great. So
Right.
maybe you want to wait for an update or something.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, we learned this the hard way, man. Trying when you try many things and it doesn't work, and suddenly you get something that oh, it worked,
Yeah.
but that it does it again. It's
Not
like,
before that. Huh? So tell me this, like, there's a lot of swirl online around, this whole vibe coding thing, and designers being able to code. Like, your engineers are actually building it. Is there a percentage of this that like AI, or you're even using AI to sort of build and code? What does that look like for you?
so there are different engineers
Yeah.
where that will that see AI differently.
Sure.
So some of them I don't know if you ever seen that graph of just like a beginner, intermediate, and expert.
Yeah.
And usually the beginner will want to use AI for everything.
Yeah.
Uh, the intermediate will be like, no, AI is bad. It's not pure.
Yeah.
It's not real
Purists.
code.
Sure.
It's not
Yeah.
there's a thing of, there's a bias against it, and
Sure.
some kind of you will hear a lot of like, well, coding was never the hard part. As I understand that.
Yeah.
Uh, and so they will be like they will see whatever AI makes as it, and more in their defense is because like at least in the beginning it was not that good, but
Yeah.
it's getting so good. So so those are the intermediate level, I would say,
Hmm.
and then the genius level are the ones who are also using AI as the ones who are the beginner, where it's like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, AI everything, man. Like this saves me so much time.
Yeah.
So I feel like some
Then
people
there's
on the
more
team,
appreciation, right? You're like, oh, it took me forever. Like, I don't
yeah,
need to spend time there. Like, I don't need to be the
exactly.
purist.
Exactly. And also, like, even if you are just like vibing with it, right? Where
Right.
it's like, hey, sometimes this thing a- acts as its own product manager too, and it will suggest you some things, and it will
Mm.
just like make suggest what to do, how to solve a problem, and
Yeah.
then you human, you pro developer can say like, no, you're crazy. Don't do it that way. You
Yeah.
should be doing it this way. And then suddenly like, oh, you're right. And then it will try to do it that way, you know?
Mm.
So I think there's some skepticism from some developers
Sure.
because and it's not something about like, oh, it's gonna take my job or anything. It's more like, oh, dude, that's it's trash code. I don't
Right.
want trash
How does it
code in my
scale,
code base.
right? Yeah.
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 So, but I mean, I can totally see that in designers where like if there's something generated with AI, they will be like, oh, dude, that's going to be slop, and I don't want slop in my design. I
Mm.
want the good stuff, you know. But and then I don't know, man. But I see like if there's anything in which LMs are getting really good at this code,
Yeah.
and I mean, I if you see the predictions from I mean, all these labs who are just like racing
Yeah.
to get to I don't know what the race is. Like, is it AGI? Is it just like dominance? I don't know. The market, I don't know.
Yeah.
But they're all like they see that one of the biggest use cases for this is code.
Yeah.
And Claude, Sonnet, and
Yeah.
Anthropic, like
Yeah.
CEO Dario, I don't remember his last name, like he was predicted in 6 to 12 months, like almost like 80, 90% of the code is going to be written by AI, which was like, whoa, what? What are those crazy predictions that
I'd say
just
it, what is that? If there's only five companies that represent every company in the world?
yeah. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I understand where he's coming from because like
Sure.
I can see that since this thing is just like generating code so fast, I can
Yeah.
see like, oh, okay, it's not he's not talking about replacing existing code. It's more about like, hey, now
Mm.
uh, from the code that can be generated by humans
Yeah.
versus what AI can generate, yeah, there's going to be a big gap,
Right.
you know? So I think that that's where his calculations are coming from. But
Yeah.
it sounds like a very, I don't know, one of those statements that just like made
Yeah.
your eyebrows like be like, what the hell? What's
Yeah.
going on?
But you're
Uh,
you're you're not seeing Lumi move in that direction anytime soon. Anytime soon.
no,
Yeah.
I mean, we have used, like I was
Yeah.
saying, like a couple of our developers have been one more than the other
Sure.
has been using vibe coding
Yeah.
more and just like, but from a very pragmatic and very just like a
Yeah.
conscious way where it's like, oh, vibe coding is kind of also just a YOLO, you know, it's just like,
Yeah.
hey, AI, go do whatever.
Right. Right.
And it's you have to be, this is not really vibe coding, it's more like a using AI as an assistant.
Sure.
Because vibe coding, you just say like, yeah, accept,
Right.
next, I don't care, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when you do that and you give that responsibility to the robot, oh dude,
Roulette.
chaos. Oh, it starts removing features. It starts replacing
Oh
them
my
with new
gosh.
stuff. Is the worst.
Yeah.
So, but it's like for I know that vibe coding is a thing right now, and
Yeah.
I use vibe coding. I've been using it also for my engineers have, they hate me because I go into the Slack engineering channel and I come with my prototypes and they're like, "Hey guys, I built it." See? And they're like, "Nah,
Huh?
this." But more than anything, like a prototype, like for
Yeah.
different things. It is like, hey, I have an idea. And
Yeah.
usually it's like with a static prototype, sometimes it's hard to see the real value,
Sure.
because like even to convince the stakeholders and other people, like when you actually see the thing that you want to do and
Yeah.
you put your own prompt or your own what you really want to do, and then you see a result with
Mhm.
these things that allow you, us designers, to build prototypes like that that connect to a database, that connect to a server,
Right.
that actually animate with whatever we use in CSS animations or framer motion.
Right.
And you're actually understanding it's like this is how a developer will use it,
Mm.
will implement it. You're using Tailwind or using Chat CA components. You're using those things and you're
Yeah.
building it. I've been getting a better appreciation of what building a product
All that it
is.
takes to make it function, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had a a surface understanding of HTML, CSS,
Yeah.
JavaScript, but I would still see TypeScript and using Brazil and opening the terminal, man, just with a lot of respect and fear,
Right.
And
Right.
with vibe coding, I feel like I'm losing the fear of those kinds of
Sure.
things because I feel like the little robot is assisting me along the way, and I'm seeing the decisions that it makes. And part of like 80% I don't understand. And I'm like,
No.
oh, okay, that's cool. You just added, you just npm something. I don't know why, but okay, cool, install it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh,
You're
but
like,
then
as
you
long as
start
I
seeing
don't
it's like,
break the computer, I'm good.
yeah,
Yeah.
and again, as long as you're doing, for me, is it's been a lot of silly prototypes, a lot of silly apps or experiments,
Mm.
and real prototypes for Lumi, where it's
Mm.
like, hey, I will come up with an idea. Where it's like, hey guys, I was experimenting even before we build it.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, how can we get in Lumi, we have a feature to restyle photos.
Yeah.
So there's images that exist, but now you want them with a comic art style or a pixel art style, but all of the photos that already exist, how can we do that? And how can we get, so it, how do you do that? Well, I started like working with different models,
Yeah.
like seeing, should it first see the first image, go through image vision, generate a description of that image, and then from that generate a new one, or should it use a control model where there's like a control net, and that way the structure remains and it just
Cool.
changes the style. All those decisions, I and I in a way, I'm a designer, but I was acting more as a product manager. I was
Right.
like testing different things,
Yeah.
and also even just the prompt that was used to generate the last image.
Right.
How would you describe a create a pixel art image?
Right.
And you could be like, oh, just say pixel art image. But we realized that, hey, after experimenting and doing some prompt engineering, uh, like I started like realizing, oh, okay, if I use these kinds of keywords, then it will create that kind of output that I really like.
Right.
And at the end, it was the designer, and at the end, seeing the output that will generate real output from a real prototype
Right.
that was connected to real diffusion models. Uh, and I was able to do it because I was with the power of vibe coding, right? I was
Yeah.
able to test these things, but also I was able to just like see what we were all able to see, like a what kinds of prompts would work better
Yeah.
and give us that results that our taste will dictate. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, there's a big bias in Lumi. I would say we feel proud of our bias in a way because like, it's our taste and what we think is cool.
Sure.
But we also understand it's like, oh, dude, bias is also a bad thing. So we need a diversity of different creators. So we're not always creating the images that I like,
Right.
that
Right.
suddenly it's just like very mono style,
Right.
So at the end, it's been really cool to just like being able to use these tools and
That's awesome.
build these prototypes
Yeah.
that feel really real.
Yeah.
And then, oh, okay, this can work we can do this. And then I could come to the engineers and it's like, hey guys, I know how to do it, you know?
Fair-
And you know what? It's not just an idea and it's just not just a document. We
Right.
can click around and test it. And
Yeah,
I think it's been really
it's like
empowering.
this, it's not only just rapid, but it's like dynamic iteration because at least there's kind of like a step function forward of sort of being able to at least articulate the path to get to what you're able to exemplify, um,
Exactly.
which is really awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
well, look, dude, it's funny. I still remember when we were in Antwerp and, we were just kind of talking about Lumia on the side. And I was like, man, it'd be really great if this was like integrated in LinkedIn at some point. And I think like a couple of weeks ago, there was an announcement of like the Lumia integration in LinkedIn.
Oh,
I'm not going to take any credit for it, but, um, that's amazing. Like how maybe kind of walk me through, like, what have been some of like your success stories, moving into this new venture?
yeah, man. Uh, thanks for the shout out. But yeah, it's we work with the LinkedIn team and we're like, hey, how can we bring cool images
Mm,
to pro users in LinkedIn
yeah.
and also to pages, uh,
Mhm.
um, which I didn't really know exactly how pages works, which
Sure.
is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And we're just like working on how to integrate even more with search and
Yeah.
other stuff in the
Yeah.
future. I don't know how much I can say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Actually,
We were having one week to talk, but not on the podcast.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, but we're working on
Amazing.
making it a little bit better, like always, like any product. But it's been really cool, man, because
Yeah.
we've seen a lot of actually a lot like we just saw someone who is making what we were trying to do with our own website generator.
Interesting. Yeah.
Now they're doing their own, which is way better than what we tried, and it's
Yeah.
also the technology has gotten so much better. Then the output that they're able to create is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't think the product is out there yet, but
No.
I can tell you that it's happening. And they're using Lummi,
Right.
So it was cool. It's like, oh, full circle. Like
Yeah.
somebody is actually doing it what we wanted to do, but they're doing it the right way
Yeah.
and still powered some of the imagery by Lummi
Wow.
because they're also adding all other options. So I think I don't know. We want more people to just like have access to cool images.
Yeah.
This is becoming more and more easy. I think what what we want is more people access to just like images that are going to make their products look amazing.
Yeah. Well, Pablo, thanks so much for coming on the show. Like, are there any sort of words of wisdom for someone looking to, get into the space and create their own tooling or just experiment with AI?
Yeah, man. I think just there's something about like us being really careful and waiting until you feel ready, until it's the right moment. And but you're never going to be ready. It's just
Yeah.
when is that moment is now.
Mhm.
And now that you're planning, now that you're trying to make something, you're saying like, oh, I should do it now. Don't wait for it. If that's something that you really want to do it now. If it's learning something, if it's just experimenting with something, I think it's just like not waiting. And
Mm.
also, from whatever you do, taking I don't know, the good learnings from it.
Yeah.
Because when you step into something that you don't know, then you're going to find yourself like having a hard time, or just like, oh, what am I doing? Or the output or whatever comes out of it is not going to be great.
Yeah.
So then it's really easy to get discouraged. And it's like, oh, well, why did I even try? So uh, I think I've been fortunate to be just like, I don't know, like almost like Spider-Man, like one of his superpowers is that he just keeps trying, that
Mm.
he just like stands up again. And it's like, okay, no, yeah, I just failed or I was defeated, but I'm going to try again. And I feel like there's something about Spider-Man that we can all learn and just
Yeah.
like get up again and just like try it again or try something different. Or so yeah, I don't know. The moment is now, and even if whatever you try fails, like hey, stand up and try it again. It's
Sure.
very basic,
You
very
brought it down to
very
something that was,
hallmarky.
yeah, you brought it back to something that was simple and digestible. So all
Yeah.
props to you. Again, Pablo, we'll wrap on that. And thank you so much for coming on the show. For listeners and people watching, like, be sure to follow Pablo on LinkedIn. You've got this daily illustration that you're doing. And those are really a pleasure to be able to catch up on. What are you gonna say?
Thank
Your
you.
page is lit up.
Oh, dude, yeah, I've been back at doing comics. So
Yeah.
yeah, anyone, I post them on my social media, but I also have a
Yeah.
newsletter and it's called another design newsletter.com. Just another design newsletter.com. And so yeah, like anyone who's interested, I try to share my kind of like what's going on in the news, but
Yeah.
also just what I'm feeling about it, and hopefully some people actually find that interesting. So yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you so much. All right.
thank you, man. Thanks for doing this. It's so cool that you've been doing this kind of podcast, and I
Hey,
don't know,
hey.
it's like you. I mean, dude, like you're like a leader of a huge team and of one of the biggest companies in the
Yeah.
world, and you're making a podcast. You're an inspiration to all of us.
Oh,
So thank you.
Aaron, I appreciate it. Yeah, look, I was actually reflecting on the podcast, and one of the things that you see as a manager directly firsthand is, what your team gets fired up about, like kind of like what you discussed
Yeah,
a bit earlier. And there's just so much curiosity around how can designers feel empowered to build their own products. What are examples outside of just productivity? Like, what are people putting out in the world? And so, to me, I feel like this is just a little way of being able to put them on game and hopefully getting inspired by it. So just know that you being on here is helping out a ton of people.
oh man, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I feel good. Feel good about myself. I'm just fired up. I'm gonna go with my puppies now and just
All
I'm
right.
gonna go out there. Yeah, let's go take over the world. Thanks, man.
Thanks for tuning in to Technically Speaking. If you liked today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe on Substack, YouTube, and you can give me a follow on LinkedIn. Links are in the show notes. See you next time.